Hey guys, welcome back. Today I'm teaching Melanie how to apply Venetian plaster.
Hey, we're Blake and Melanie. We're on a journey to discover the things that fill life with joy, find more balance in the everyday, and even pursue some of our crazy ideas. We're sharing our story in the hopes that it'll encourage you to know yours and inspire you to go after your own big ideas. So we're inviting you along for it all.
You applied Venetian plaster, kind of, not really, in our office. You helped me do that. But then we realized like really only one person can do it. I mean, you could definitely have two people doing it, but then it just made more sense for me to just kind of work on the Venetian plaster, which was great because I got to have a lot of practice there. And you've also helped me skim coat the walls with the trowel. So I feel like maybe this won't be as hard for you.
Yeah, so that's what we're working with. I haven't really applied it, but I kind of obviously understand because Blake obviously has done this a lot. So I feel like I've worked with the trowel a little bit with like joint compound when we were just skim coating our living room, but I haven't really applied actual plaster.
And it's a little different, but not like a whole lot different. So I feel like maybe you have some of the motor skill there. So first, we're gonna just use some old San Marco plaster that we have. We're just trying to use what we have left. And it is not mixed. So first step is to mix your plaster. Step one, you guys, mix your plaster. Today we're gonna be using San Marco, their Marmarino Classico, which is just their kind of like matte Venetian plaster. It's the classic kind of look, kind of tried and true. It's similar to Marmarino KS. So if you know Marmarino KS, you essentially will know Marmarino Classico from San Marco. This stuff's a little bit thicker. It takes a lot more to put on the wall. So anyways, that's a little bit different. Marmarino KS goes on thinner than this does. We're gonna water this down a little bit because it's kind of dried. It looks really dry. So anyways, this is old stuff. So it's good to practice with old stuff and then you can move on to the nice stuff when you're ready. So there you go. So we're gonna mix this up. We got our mixer. Step one, mix it up. I'm gonna go grab a little bit of water so we can add into that. Step one, done, mixed.
Mixed.
Time to apply. What tools do you need? You know what tools you need? Small one, that's good. There you go, got our tools. Okay.
Thingamabob.
You're gonna use the thingamabob to scrape your plaster out and place it on your trowel. And the amount you got is pretty decent. So yeah, I would just go with a small amount as you're starting out. You see me do the motion, I would just go for it, right? So I would start kind of maybe out in the open so you know how it feels. Okay, we got some big chunks in here. You grab it.
This is old plaster, obviously.
So what I would recommend you do is get some on your trowel, put it straight on, and then pull it back off. And this stuff specifically is just thicker, so don't try to pull as much off as you're applying. This stuff is just coarser. It's looking good. It's just, this is old plaster, so she's having to deal with some chunks in there, so. The first coat, you always don't want to pull as much off as you would think. And then yeah, you can always start kind of get it primed on your trowel. So one thing I am noticing that you gotta be careful about with the coarser Venetian plasters is that there's a little bit of chatter, right? Which means that there's just kind of that So in that case, yeah, you just want to either go back over it or go back over in a different direction. Got our first coat done. Melanie obviously knows what she's doing already, it seems like.
I've observed Blake very many times.
She is already on her way to Venetian plaster mastery. Awesome. So now we just need to let it dry. Yeah, this is a good first coat. There's a few places obviously here and there, but that's just practice at that point. You know, like there's a line here a little bit. But I wouldn't worry too much about that because this rest of it's looking pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty thin up on the top, I feel like.
We'll let it dry. Okay, so today we are doing the second coat of Venetian plaster. Melanie's gonna apply it. Last night we applied it and it was taking forever to dry, so we are back today. So now it's fully dry and we are gonna do the second coat, or Melanie's gonna do the second coat. And hopefully our plaster isn't as chunky as it was yesterday. So let's do it.
Perfect. So what are my instructions for
second coat? Second coat. So you're gonna be applying it in kind of the same format you did the first time, but this time you're gonna wanna pull more of it off. Okay. So you're gonna wanna be applying it a little bit more force. So some of these areas before where they're thin right now, you probably wanted to have left it on a little thicker. Yeah. So your first coat is a little thicker than your second coat. Your second coat's really like compressing the plaster into the plaster of the first coat, and then you'll burnish. So we're gonna wanna do this section and then we'll go back and burnish after that, so we can do that separately.
Any tips for my first swing?
Looks pretty good. The main thing is you're not gonna wanna I think even with your first coat, try not to go over your plaster too many times.
Okay.
And then yeah, again, second coat's a little steeper, you're pulling more of it off. The idea being here that you're just applying a really thin coat into the cracks of the plaster.
Like that?
Yeah. And when you get to this small step, don't do that.
Okay.
Because essentially, this is like what it's gonna look like, right? We don't really want, as much as we can, don't really want just small sections of plaster. Like all this stuff, you'd wanna really come back and cover pretty quickly, but let's just keep continuing on. You really want all your strokes to be like full strokes. So whenever you are getting low on plaster, or it's not like spreading as much, just go ahead and get more plaster. That's gonna be your best bet. You really want like nice strokes for every stroke if possible. Obviously that's not gonna be the case. There's variances, but. Very nice. We got our second coat on. Pretty good job. There's a few areas that are maybe a little thick, but that's okay. Now we're gonna burnish. So grab your burnishing trowel. If you don't have a burnishing trowel, feel free to use a normal trowel, that's totally fine too. We also need a rag so you can wipe off the area. All burnishing is applying pressure across your plaster. So you're just compressing and giving friction to the plaster. In this case, since Venetian plaster has marble dust in it, that allows it to kind of give the shine. This is just more of a matte Venetian plaster, so it won't get super shiny, but you'll be able to see the sheen as we go. So go ahead and do this. And the idea is not to be pulling really any off. There will be some on your trowel, but the idea is not to pull it off. So if you're pulling it off, it's either too wet or too thick, or we'll know. So you don't want to go at a sharp angle because then you'll just be pulling it off. You just kind of want to do a nice, angle here. Okay, so now you can stop after burnishing a little bit, take a look and kind of see. I'd also just go ahead and kind of feel too. You'll be able to feel where there's rough and smooth spots. So the smooth spots are perfect, right? And anywhere where there's kind of rough, like over here maybe needs a little bit more. And you can kind of see where it's shiny and not shiny. But yeah, so in these areas maybe need a little bit more. And also be careful starting in the middle too, because you'll leave lines. So
yeah, that's a problem right there.
So the plaster is still wet at this point, so you got to be you can't be super aggressive with it. You can't just jam into it. And you also can the idea of this is just kind of like an initial burnish to kind of get it smoothed out while it's wet, so you can really compress it and get it really, really smooth. And then you can also burnish again as it's drying, so you don't have to do all the burnishing all at once. But it's a good idea to do it when it's slightly wet, because then you can actually compress it really smoothly into itself. I kind of like the way it is right now. Kind of the very nice, still shiny, still matte look. So the more you burnish, the more texture and movement you can get out of it too. So if you're going for a lot of movement, you could burnish some more. But in this case, this is looking pretty good.
Fabulous.
Well, there you have it, you guys. Melanie did an awesome job, I feel like, and I don't know, what do you think?
Yeah, I feel like obviously I had some kind of problem areas in a few spots, but overall, do you think I can help on our next project?
Yeah, I think so. I think, I think it's always a good idea to just kind of practice as many times as you can to get the sensation down before moving to an actual wall, because once you do that, you're kind of like, just as the final look, right? You gotta kind of know what you're doing before you move to a wall. So it's always a good idea to practice, but hopefully that shows you guys that like, it's stuff you gotta know, you gotta watch someone or like practice a little bit, but it's not like so far out of, just general, if you kind of have seen someone do it or have ever used the tool, I think the main thing is just getting used to holding the trowel and using the tools and scooping the plaster and all that stuff. Like, I think that's maybe the biggest part of the whole thing. But the cool part about plaster is Melanie's, the way she applied it is gonna look different than the way I applied it. So I would recommend, if you're trying to do this together with someone, that you guys kind of like try to mimic each other's strokes. That way the look is the same, so it's not like half the wall is really short strokes and half the wall is really long strokes or whatever. So that's the only thing I would recommend there, because it is distinct to who's applying it. So in that case, like if we were working together, we'd want to make sure our strokes and our movements look the same. So there you have it. Melanie applying Venetian plaster. Did you ever think you'd see it? I don't know. Good job. Of course, we pick a light color again, which is very hard to see on camera, so sorry about that, you guys.
So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, even if it's just to say good job for trying. Let us know in the comments how you think I did, and we'll see you next time. Bye.